All right, let's just get right into it. We are going to tackle one of the most common and, let's be honest, kind of anxiety-inducing questions out there about intimacy. But here's the deal. We're not going to use opinions or guesses. We are going to use cold, hard data to replace all those myths with actual facts. So yeah, let's just put the question right on the table. How long does intercourse really last? I mean, what does the science have to say about it? Because, modern culture, everything from Hollywood movies to the stuff you see online, it puts this enormous pressure on us. There's this idea of how sex is supposed to look, what's impressive and what's supposedly normal. But honestly, most of that is just noise. And that's exactly why we're going to ground this explainer in actual real-deal research. We're looking at a study that got 500 couples from all over the world to, time themselves. So let's see what they found out. Okay, but hold on. Before we even get to a single number, we have got to be super, super clear about what the researchers were actually measuring. Because without a clear definition, the numbers, they're pretty much meaningless. So here's the crucial part. For this study, the word sex was defined only as the time from the moment of penetration to the point of ejaculation. That's it. It doesn't include foreplay or kissing or any other kind of intimacy. It's not a judgment on what sex is. It's just the specific thing they had to measure to get consistent data. All right, now we can get into the really fascinating stuff, that huge gap between what people think is true and what a stopwatch actually reveals. So check this out. It kind of shows this fascinating internal conflict. When men were asked what the ideal time would be, the average answer they gave was about 16 minutes. But when they were asked how long they think it actually lasts, that number drops all the way down to about 9 minutes. So you can already see this big disconnect between what's desired and what's perceived. So okay, that's the perception. That's the ideal versus the guess. But what happens when you take all the guesswork out of it and just use a stopwatch? What is the real number? Let's get to the core finding of the research. This is that moment where we get to replace all that cultural pressure and all that perception with a single, clear piece of data. And there it is, 5.7 minutes. The average length of intercourse, from penetration to ejaculation, across all 500 of those couples was 5.7 minutes. Not 16 minutes, not 9 minutes, just under 6. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. But an average can be a little misleading all by itself. The reality is, the range of what's normal is just incredibly wide. The study saw times as short as just a few seconds and as long as nearly an hour. That 5.7-minute figure, it's really just the middle point of a very, very broad spectrum. So we've got the average, but the story is so much more nuanced than just one number. Other factors, like where you happen to live and what you might desire, they add these really important layers to the whole conversation. And this part is just brilliant because it shows our experiences aren't just about biology. The study actually found that the averages varied by country. I mean, some regions averaged around 4 to 5 minutes, while others were closer to 10. This pretty strongly suggests that our cultural expectations play a real role in this. And to add another perspective into the mix, a totally separate, large survey found that when women were asked about their desired duration for penetrative sex, the average was around 25 minutes. But, and this is so important, that number varied dramatically from person to person. Which brings us to this absolutely essential point. What someone might desire is not the same thing as the physical reality of an average. And even more importantly, neither of those numbers, not desire, not duration, is the sole factor in what makes for a satisfying sexual experience. So let's make that shift right now. Let's move away from the stopwatch and start focusing on what the research says actually contributes to satisfaction. Because honestly, this is where the real takeaway is. So the crucial point is this. Time is not the most important variable. I mean, not even close. What truly matters for satisfaction are things like communication, feeling comfortable and safe with your partner, making sure there's mutual enjoyment, and really fostering both an emotional and a physical connection. And remember, foreplay and all those other forms of intimacy, they weren't even on the stopwatch, but they are absolutely central to satisfaction. Let's just say it as plainly as we can, because this is the core message of this whole thing. The single most important factor in sexual satisfaction is not duration. Now, while the average is shorter than a lot of people think, it's also really important to acknowledge that if timing, whether it's too fast or too slow, is causing genuine distress or frustration or anxiety for you, that is totally valid. And in those cases, seeking support from a doctor or a sex therapist is a really great next step. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's really this simple, powerful idea. Sex is not a performance. It is not a stopwatch competition. It's about connection and comfort and mutual satisfaction. And that is something a stopwatch can never, ever measure.